Welcome students. Today I am going to teach you the third chapter of your first flight book. The name of the chapter is Two Stories About Flying. The chapter includes two stories about flying. First one is his first flight and the second story is Black Aeroplane. Today I am going to teach you the first story, his first flight. So let's start reading the chapter and I am going to explain it to you. His first flight. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him, so he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings, and flew away. He failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate. His father and mother had come around, calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. Let's see the difficult word coming in the paragraph. First one is ledge. Ledge is a shelf-like part of a wall or a cliff. Look at the picture. It is a cliff and the part that is flattened is called ledge. Next word is brink. The corner of the ledge is called brink. Next word is muster up. Muster up means gather up or build up. Plunge means long jump. And next word is upbraiding. Upbraiding means scolding. Now let's see the explanation. Students, this is a fictional story of a young seabird called Seagull. The time had come when he must learn to fly. His two brothers and a little sister had learned how to fly by imitating their parents. He had been afraid to fly with them. He came to the brink and tried to fly in the air. He became afraid. He felt sure that if he tried to fly, he would fall into the sea below. So he ran back to his hole under the ledge where he slept at night. His brothers and little sister had shorter wings, but they flew away a day before. He failed to gather up courage to take plunge. His parents came to take him along with them. They scolded him, threatened him that he would starve on the ledge, but the bird was too afraid to move. Now, the next paragraph. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had in fact seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock, while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle, and all the morning the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. Now, herring is a kind of fish. Devour means eat up quickly. Now, 24 hours passed. Nobody came near him. A day before, he saw his parents flying with his siblings. They were trying to make them perfect in the art of flying, moving above the sea surface, and to dive for the fish. He had, in fact, seen his older brother catch his first herring fish and he was eating up quickly. He was standing on the rock and looking at all this. His hunger now became too much, means his hunger increased when he saw his brother eating fish. Now, all the morning, his family was flying on the next plateau. It seemed that they were taunting him with his cowardice. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Blazing means shining. Here now, the sun was high in the sky. It was shining on his ledge that was opening in the south direction. He felt the heat because he was hungry. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wings, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their head sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. He came out to the edge of the rock, standing on his one feet. He was pretending as he was falling asleep to attract the attention of his family. All his siblings were sleeping. His father was maintaining his feathers. Only his mother was looking at him. She tore a piece of fish lying near her feet and then tried to sharpen her beak. The sight increased the hunger of the bird. He loved to tear food. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Gao kol ah, she screamed back derisively, but he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of the fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers. Then, under his stomach and against his wings, he could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. Ga 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 ga. How cool ah! His mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banking and soaring and diving. Now, here, derisively means in a manner showing someone that he is stupid, means teasing someone. Plaintively means sorrowfully. Here in this paragraph, the bird made a call to his mother asking her for food. She replied back mockingly, means she was trying to laugh at his stupidity. After a minute, she picked up a piece of fish and flew toward him. She did not come nearer to him. She halted and her wings became motionless. The seagull wondered why she was not coming near to him. He could not bear it any longer. He was hungry and dived at fish. He could not reach near his mother, but fell from the ledge downwards into the space. He was filled with fear and cried, but the fear lasted only for a minute. He spread his wings and flew. He was no longer afraid. He cried with joy and started flying higher and higher. His parents and his siblings were flying around him. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly and commanded himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. Commanded means praised. Now he completely forgot that he had not been able to fly. He proud himself. He was praising himself for doing different moves in the air. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. Okay? He was flying straight over the sea. He saw a vast green sea under him with its little waves moving over it. He produced happiest sound. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise. Exhausted by the strange exercise, his feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. Now, his parents, his brothers, and his sister, they all landed on the sea. They asked him to come there. He landed down on the sea. His legs sank into it, and he frightened. He tried to rise again, but he was weak and tired due to hunger. He couldn't rise. He again landed on the water. His belly touched the water. He began to float on the sea. His family his family member praised him and gave him piece of fish to eat. And thus he made his first flight. That's all for the day.